Chapter 29. Intimidating Key. Inside the underground cave, Xiao Yan looked at the continuously shrinking egg, and his eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise. As the egg shrunk, it continuously released a glaring light. Under Xiao Yan's powerful soul perception, the light contained a faintly discernible and intimidating aura. Sensing this aura, he recalled the scene when he first saw the egg. The imposing aura emitted by the fire dragon that looked down upon the heavens and the earth shook Xiao Yan's heart. This aura, Xiao Yan's eyes were filled with extraordinary splendor. After that, he quickly sat down with his legs crossed. He formed a hand seal and closed his eyes to cultivate under the slightly surprised gaze of the fire dragon. Very quickly, the powerful deterrent force contained in the intense light flowed into Xiao Yan's body along with his breathing. It only took a moment. A faint layer of red appeared on Xiao Yan's skin, and his body seemed to be unable to withstand the strong deterrent force. Blue veins were exposed, and Xiao Yan's face became extremely red at this moment. Blood almost broke out from his naked upper body and chest. Waves of beast-like roars were slowly heard from Xiao Yan's throat. The fire dragon not far away looked at Xiao Yan and a trace of shock flashed across its eyes. It mumbled to itself, "This brat, he actually wants to absorb the holy beast's origin force." A moment later, Xiao Yan suddenly let out a deep cry of pain. His voice was filled with an unbearable pain. In the next moment, the enormous dragon intimidating aura seemed to have transformed into a fire dragon. The aura of the fire dragon was shocking, and the dragon intimidating aura soared into the sky. The fire dragon coiled its body and roared at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan forcefully opened his sleepy eyes. The pain that came from his body caused the latter to frown. His body trembled slightly because of the pain. Looking at the fire dragon in the sky that was formed by the dragon's aura, the roar of the fire dragon was like a sound wave that kept hitting Xiao Yan's eardrums. The vast and mighty deterrent force was like a rolling wave. Hong Long. Arg. The deterrent force kept entering his body, turning into endless origin monarch ki. When Xiao Yan's body could no longer contain it, he immediately roared out in pain. In an instant, a vast and mighty emperor's aura rose from Xiao Yan's spiritual altar. Like a sharp and fierce sword, the sword soared into the sky and slashed at the fire dragon in the sky. The fire dragon let out an angry roar. After struggling for a moment, it wailed and turned into spiritual energy that filled the sky. The moment the fire dragon dissipated, Xiao Yan's aura suddenly soared. A strong aura was released from his body, and it contained traces of dragon's might. The power of the origin monarch ki had also increased by a lot. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Xiao Yan waited for the origin monarch ki in his body to calm down. He raised his head and looked at the stunned fire dragon. He smiled and said, "Such a heavy gift, I will accept it." The fire dragon was speechless for a long time. Half a day had passed. Then he mumbled to himself, "What an abnormal fellow. He's only an early 9 stars fighting monarch, but he's actually able to absorb the deterrent force into his own origin monarch ki." He didn't care about the fire dragon. Xiao Yan muttered to himself as he felt the majestic origin monarch ki in his body. He closed his eyes in an intoxicated manner and absorbed the dragon might contained within the intense light. Although he had suffered a huge injury, this was still not worth mentioning compared to the benefits he had obtained. This time, he fused the deterrent force contained within the dragon's might into the origin monarch ki. Not only did it solidify and strengthen his origin monarch ki, it also caused a trace of dragon's might and deterrent force to be born within the origin monarch crystal. In the future, if he were to fight with an expert, the deterrent force within the origin monarch ki would be released. Regardless of the difference in strength, at least his aura would not be suppressed by others. Compared to this benefit, the excitement of advancing from the intermediate 8-star fighting monarch to the early 9-star fighting monarch was not very strong. Of course, Xiao Yan also knew that the reason why he was able to rely on the strength of a small fighting monarch to fuse the intimidation aura of the mysterious dragon's might into his origin monarch crystal was because of this. It was mainly because of the emperor's aura that was contained within his body, the fighting monarch. It was a peak existence in the fighting ki continent, and every fighting monarch possessed the ability to look down on the world. Although the fighting monarch in the great world had become the lowest existence in the world, it was still a supreme emperor's aura. However, the supreme aura still existed in their bones. This kind of monarch aura that was condensed in their bloodline was absolutely not inferior to the aura of any expert in the great world. And this imperial aura was something that ordinary cultivators of the great world did not possess. Only those supreme experts who stood at the peak of the pyramid possessed this kind of unparalleled imperial aura. This kind of unparalleled imperial aura was the greatest advantage that the fighting monarch of lower realm possessed compared to the original inhabitants of most great worlds. The fire dragon softly muttered a few times as it sensed the faint intimidation aura that Xiao Yan emitted. After that, it turned its eyes to the fist-sized egg. At this moment, light was circulating on the surface of the egg. It was extremely dazzling. In Xiao Yan's eyes, inside this tiny eggshell, it was as if there was a world-shaking ancient ferocious beast hidden within it. The fire dragon let out a low roar, and its several jong-long body began to burn. Then, it transformed into a brilliant stream of fire and shot into the enormous egg. When the fire dragon was about to enter the egg, Xiao Yan's heart suddenly moved. He urgently asked, "How is your strength?" The moment the fire stream entered the eggshell, the fire dragon's voice rang in Xiao Yan's ears, at least stronger than the fire wolf on top. As soon as the voice faded, the huge egg soared into the sky and turned into a ray of light that entered the chaos great monarch flame. When Xiao Yan heard this, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. The strength of the crimson fire flame wolf should have far exceeded that of an ordinary monarch emperor, and the fire dragon was even stronger than the crimson fire flame wolf. It should be comparable to that mysterious middle-aged man, or perhaps even stronger. This time, he had won a lot. The delighted Xiao Yan naturally didn't see it, but the little golden dragon on the chaos great monarch flame seemed to have moved a few times. It seemed to have grown a little bigger. The moment the huge egg entered the chaos great monarch flame's body, a tiny spatial crack appeared on the spot where the huge egg was located. In just a moment, it had filled the entire spatial zone. Then, like glass shattering, the space shattered in just a few breaths' time. In the next moment, the Xiaoyi that Xiao Yan and the chaos great monarch flame had transformed into appeared in the inner hole of the crimson fire flame wolf. Looking around, Xiao Yan let out a breath. When he thought about what had just happened, it was like a dream. He came to the side of the 8 pillars of fire and waved his hand. The stone pillars were kept into the storage ring. Xiao Yan looked around. He picked up the small crimson fire flame wolf's spirit core, and when he found that there were no other treasures, he turned around and walked outside. Along the way, the high temperature had no effect on Xiao Yan. After the experience just now, Xiao Yan's overall strength had more than doubled compared to when he first came in, and his strength had an unprecedented breakthrough. Thinking of the true master of this cave, Xiao Yan's excited mood immediately calmed down. He immediately rushed towards the cave entrance. Although he had the fire dragon, a heavyweight fighter, Xiao Yan wasn't confident that he could invite this Buddha. It was better to leave this place as soon as possible. While he was flying, Xiao Yan suddenly heard an extremely angry wolf roar not far away from him. Xiao Yan was slightly startled. The crimson fire flame wolf had really come in. After a brief moment of fear, Xiao Yan felt relieved. Since he couldn't avoid fighting the crimson fire flame wolf head-on, the fire dragon would definitely come out. He could use this opportunity to see how strong the fire dragon was. As Xiao Yan was thinking, the red fiery dragon had already appeared in front of the former. At this moment, the crimson fire flame wolf looked extremely miserable. There were many wounds on its body. It seemed that it had gone through a tough battle with the middle-aged man. Xiao Yan looked at the huge red wolf not far away from him, and his eyes didn't reveal a trace of shock. The crimson fire flame wolf in front of him was the first monarch emperor level devil beast he had seen in the great world. Compared to the devil beast in the fighting key continent, the power it possessed was indeed different. It was wilder and fiercer. The source energy contained in its body gave people a strong sense of pressure. Ahu! The crimson fire flame wolf's sensitive sense of smell immediately sensed the aura of its own child that was being contaminated by Xiao Yan's body. At this time, the little wolf was nowhere to be seen. When the nightmare in its heart became reality, the crimson fire flame wolf suddenly let out a miserable roar. Its eyes were bloodshot, and a deep roar kept coming out from its throat. Its huge body was trembling because of its anger. Before the roar faded, the huge body of the crimson fire flame wolf lunged at Xiao Yan. The energy of the monarch emperor-level heavenly beast was fully unleashed, and an intense energy rushed towards Xiao Yan from all directions. Xiao Yan, who had merged with the deterrent force, naturally wasn't afraid of the deterrent force of the heavenly beast's aura. He slightly unleashed the origin monarch ki. It easily neutralized the heavenly beast's aura. He looked at the crimson fire flame wolf that was lunging at him. There was no sign of panic in Xiao Yan's eyes. He extended his right palm. A crimson gold flame appeared out of thin air. Just as the crimson fire flame wolf was about to lunge at the flame, the latter started trembling. In the next moment, accompanied by a furious dragon roar, a fire dragon rushed out from the flame. It charged straight towards the crimson fire flame wolf. Under the crimson fire flame wolf's astonished gaze, the fire dragon was like a dagger. It pierced through the former's neck, carrying with it boiling hot blood. A huge wolf head shot up into the sky. The huge wolf body trembled a few times before it also fell to the ground with a loud bang. After killing the crimson fire flame wolf with a single strike, the fire dragon seemed to be dissatisfied as it roared at Xiao Yan. It turned into a ray of light and once again entered the chaos great monarch flame. Xiao Yan let out a hollow laugh. He looked at the huge wolf head that fell to the ground. The crimson fire flame wolf's eyes were wide open, as if it was filled with unwillingness. Xiao Yan looked at the crimson fire flame wolf's eyes that were filled with unwillingness. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. Killing the middle-rank heavenly beast with a single strike. What kind of strength was this? This time, he had really picked up a treasure. Just as he was about to leave, his expression suddenly changed. Xiao Yan looked at the crimson fire flame wolf's corpse once again, his eyes filled with excitement. Middle-rank heavenly beast's heavenly core. Immediately, he squatted down and wrapped his right hand in flames. He reached into the crimson fire flame wolf's chest and touched it for a moment. Suddenly, his face lit up with joy. He pulled with force, and a fiery red crystal core with no flaws or dirt appeared in front of Xiao Yan. Hee. Xiao Yan licked his lips. His eyes were filled with endless joy. I've obtained one of the 5 heavenly beast heavenly cores. Kept into his storage ring, Xiao Yan looked at the corpse of the crimson fire flame wolf on the ground. His eyes sparkled for a moment, then he waved his hand. A huge python's corpse was thrown out. He didn't even look at the python's corpse. Xiao Yan touched the body of the crimson fire flame wolf with one hand, and the storage ring on his finger flashed with a faint light. Then, the huge fire wolf's corpse on the ground disappeared without a trace. After putting the crimson fire flame wolf's corpse into the storage ring, Xiao Yan clapped his hands and ran towards the cave entrance without looking back. Being exposed to the glaring sunlight, Xiao Yan habitually narrowed his eyes and looked at the large trees around the cave entrance that had been destroyed. Xiao Yan looked at the sky and did not see the middle-aged man's figure. He was alert and took a deep breath. Xiao Yan touched the storage ring on his finger and flew towards the direction of the fallen holy mountain. He did not know how long he had been running for. When Xiao Yan stopped to rest for a while, a voice came from the sky, "Little brother, I have something to bother you." How about it? Chapter end.